This is a Shoesmiths podcast.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the fourth podcast in this Shoesmiths Perspective series. My name is Darren Cleveland and I work in the BD team here at Shoesmiths. And today I'm speaking with Liam Phillips, a real estate partner in our London office. Good morning, Liam.
Morning, how you doing?
Not bad, thank you, not bad. So the question we're asking as part of this series is whether real estate has a part to play in helping the UK to address its productivity gap, which we know to be lagging behind our economic rivals for over a decade now. Our latest report comes at this issue from numerous angles, but Liam, your piece looks at our increasing reliance on data centres and how central they are to ensuring we stay connected in all facets of our life, but most notably in our ability to continue working productively, regardless of where we are. So, Liam, with us all now consuming more data than ever, data centres have become an essential, although arguably often overlooked, part of our infrastructure. Just how integral are they to our lives and our ability to be productive?
Thanks, Aaron. I think we need to look at data in the sense of what they give and what they support, and arguably, whether we like it or not, or realise it or not, we are socially reliant. We're also reliant via work on technology. From the moment you sort of wake up in the morning, you grab your phone to have a look at it, your news, etc., to the moment you go to bed, you're looking at all the sports news, etc., that you are constantly consuming data, using data. And because of that, we need servers, we need sort of infrastructure around it to process that. And people probably don't realise that, but if you just take a look, I always think down the tube in the morning on the train, 99% of people are on their phones. That's work, that's social, etc. That is constant churning media data all the time.
Yeah.
And you need that backup. What I think that the real shift has come, obviously, is now the work from home move. So obviously March came, all of a sudden there was a huge seismic, almost overnight shift for the need for people to be working at home instantly, whether you like it or not. And because of that, instantly we all had straight away the concept of Zoom calls. We had Teams, sort of that. Everyone is now at home, probably with a partner as well, or their kids who are learning from home as well. So you've got 3 different laptops, you've got everyone using different servers, etc. That, and it's all of a sudden it's this huge, even greater need for servers and bandwidth, but on a sort of efficient scale. I mean, just literally, we did a deal in March with Cisco, who basically instantly in Madrid needed bandwidth to be able to cope with the fact that they're doing WebEx all the time for people. People were ready in a way, but no one was prepared for the sort of seismic shift needed overnight. And I think then people have started to realise that maybe they haven't attributed data centres, if you're not quite aware of it, but just the need and reliance we have upon data. And people start to look beyond that now. And I think people are probably starting to realise something that a lot of people in the industry realised before, that how crucial they are. And also then, on a business sense, because they're so crucial, obviously the monetisation of that, without data centres, arguably we wouldn't have been able to be anywhere near as efficient at working from home as we have done since March. I don't know how we would have coped with that otherwise. And it's that flexibility to be able to, draw on power and draw on space, etc., to be able to deal with the servers, etc., and get that extra sort of bandwidth, the capacity to be able to allow us all to work from home. And then, when we go back to the new normal, etc., have the ability to potentially not all go back into the office and sort of, become more footloose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is interesting, isn't it? And a little bit scary, I suppose, to consider what our productivity levels might have been like had the digital infrastructure not been in place to support what was, for many, an overnight shift to remote working. I mean, if it had happened, even like 5-10 years ago, what would it have been like? So, I mean, just kind of thinking about that and how quickly, our data consumption has increased in recent years. I mean, how do you see the market playing out as we kind of hopefully return to a more normal working arrangement in the next year or so?
Yeah, well, I think that when we say more normal, I do think that, and also all crystal ball gazing, I do think that things will change in the sense that whilst people might go back to the office, there'll be people who started staying will stay at home some days, either fully or not at all. I think meetings now, people realise you don't need to travel across the world for meetings if it's unnecessary. So I don't think we're going to sort of get out of this and then all of a sudden we're not going to see Zooms or WebExes and meetings, Teams. I think they're going to carry on. I think that people are now not scared of them. It's now become a vernacular. You Google it, you Zoom it, it's that sort of thing. I think it's going to become people are going to start asking questions. Do I need to travel up to X, Y, and Z to that, or can I have a meeting, a Teams meeting? And I think that that will mean we're not going to just leave that in the background. So I think that the market will carry on having that sort of desire and need for good quality capability and service bandwidth for people to need data at the same rates. And also, I read somewhere I can't remember what was in, but it was sort of the amount of data that they believe is going to transfer between companies within EMEA over the next 2 years is going to be fueled by people, staying home much more than they did pre-COVID. So, you're going to have people who are in the office 3 days a week, churning through data there, going home, probably logging on a bit at home as well at night, then doing a couple of days at home. Their partner mode is the same. Hopefully children back in school, it won't be an issue, but if it happens again, we can quickly adapt to that. So I think there's going to be an ever-growing need. I don't think it's going to drop off in any way, shape or form. I think people are actually just starting to, as a wider sort of again, their psyche, realise how important data centres are. And that's actually going to just mean that in terms of sort of business sense, you're going to have more people wanting to get into the space if they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I mean, is the UK well equipped to take advantage of the predicted growth in this sector? Is our digital infrastructure up to speed?
Yeah, well, obviously yes, but it's generally true, and it's generally seen by the market as being a great place. I mean, if you look at, I think we look at London and then the rest of the UK and sort of split it out from that. And London's always been seen as a perfect place to take advantage of predicted growth. M25 in London generally, it's seen as sort of data centre hotspots, proximity to businesses, skilled workforce, centrally located within Europe physically, and also excellent connectivity. Again, I read somewhere that the bandwidth, connection bandwidth, expected to at least double in comparison with London to its sort of nearest European rivals currently, which are Amsterdam and Paris. And London's always been seen as a gem in sort of the jewel of the sort of Northern European data centre market. And then you look a little bit sort of further away from that, and whilst a lot of countries have just hotspots, London and the UK then, so you can have your London for your large sort of hyperscalers, your sort of Amazons, your sort of AWS, your Microsoft, your Googles, your Apples, etc. Then we've got different sorts of data centers we can cater for. So we can have your more co-location providers who don't need to necessarily be in London. They can be in the sort of M4 corridor, Slough, you go down to Cardiff as well. Then you have the new entrance to the market, the edge data centers, which are predominantly for and built up around sort of, human settlements. So, for example, we're all on our phones all the time, crunching through data. If we have an outage on our phone or our phone, it's very annoying, but arguably it's not going to bring down a company potentially and have huge ramifications. So, therefore, there's a growing desire and need that you can actually be located in sort of less dense data centers, called edge data centers, on the edge of your human town. So, someone like Vodafone, for example. Someone like that could be in that they are near to their customers, and you're seeing a lot more of these data centers rising as well. So we can adapt and we can adopt different sorts of data centers depending on what the customer needs, where we are in the country. So we're not all focused on London, which is good, because a lot of other countries are just focused on one area within their own country. And I think that's one of the interesting things. I mean, super personal experience. During this lockdown, we've seen a huge amount of work increase in relation to sort of large, sort of global national operators. So we're talking about doing big deals with the hyperscalers to be able to roll out all the extra service they need for the chat we're having now. And then we're seeing the investment area where we've seen, I think we've done five 4 or 5 edge data centers we bought in 4 months for clients in the UK, because they're seeing it as a perfect time to get involved in the market if you've got the wherewithal and also the cash to come into it. But also, it's a great time that people are actually looking and starting to think, do I need to own this portfolio? What should I do with it? Have I got the right customer tenant mix? And it's been a time for people to evaluate. And actually, again, I read somewhere in terms of this shocked me, that in terms of investment into DCs in Europe, I think they said around last year annually was 4 billion, but Q1 and Q2 of this year we've done circa 23 billion in a market in a year that's supposed to be awful. Obviously, there are certain areas that obviously had the uptick and they do very well, but I couldn't believe that. It blew my mind. There's been a huge amount, and that's on all scales. So the big data center portfolios to the much smaller individual data center up in Scunthorpe, for example. They're everywhere, and there's people coming in at all different levels of the market.
That's some growth, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose in light of that, I mean, are there any risks which might hinder this growth? I mean, does there need to be any intervention from central government, for example?
The B word, Brexit's always there, and it sort of looms heavy on the horizon. I think we've always, I mean, in a way, the lockdown and COVID is a distraction from potential Brexit. So the thing why Brexit is a risk is only because we just don't know how it's going to deal with it. We just don't know what it's going to mean for businesses at data center market. You know, they're potentially not immune to this, but I think we can sort of navigate our way through it in the sense that we have issues. For example, we don't know how the data rules are going to be looked at, how they're going to protect data traveling between any other European state and then now us, not a European state. However, I mean, we would hope, because of the importance of sort of data centers anyway, but just data generally is a huge issue. It's not going to be put to the back burner and forgotten about. But also, we've got to remember that the way the data center market works, occupiers are very sticky in the sense that it's very hard to migrate out of a data center. You can't just leave like you are from an office because you don't like it, etc. So we're going to have to work as operators, who I mainly act for, with your occupiers to sort of navigate and transverse the issues, because they're going to be having issues, as are we as well. So I think we just need to hope and do a lot of work. And I'm on some committees where we're also working for lobbying companies, lobbying entities for the government, just to put it on their agenda. We're told it is. We're in dialogue with them about the need for ensuring data itself is protected, so that data centers, which are huge, probably unappreciated part of the British economy and market, are sort of protected. I'm hopeful it won't end up being an issue, but that's one of the concerns. I mean, another thing as well is, and this is a bit more nebulous, it's energy usage and the need to go green, etc. Data centers are really like a huge consumers of energy, so the carbon footprint's going to be very high. There are, of course, some great sort of thoughts about how maybe we can make them greener. What can we do? Can we maybe start using and teaming up with green energy providers, or solar energy providers, etc. like that? The issue at the moment is often the data centers themselves, they need so much power, the renewable resources, that even if they're on site, maybe can't provide enough power for them. So I think one of the things we need to look at potentially is the government, obviously, whilst also having, and it said it's quite sort of aggressive targets generally for sort of carbon neutrality. I think it's working with maybe the biggest users, not as enemies, but it's sort of working at seeing it, okay, you use so much energy, what can we do to help you bring it down? What can we do to understand why you use so much energy? What are the benefits of your industry being in part of the UK? So I think it's that, and maybe it's the government helping with tariffs and helping the green energy providers to get into the market a lot easier. So it's better for data center providers as well. If we have a bit more of a marketplace, we don't have to just buy from certain off the grid providers. We can look to use green energy, and customers will want that as well. It's just doing it on a higher scale, so that we know the power's there, etc. So that would be something that the government, I think, could help on. Do I think it's a risk? I think they're going to clobber them for it. I don't think they will, but I think it's just something to be mindful of, because the targets will come around to be completed quite quickly, and we need to get ahead of ourselves. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Liam. That was fascinating stuff. So thank you for your time today.
So, thanks, Aaron.
To read more on Liam's and various others' views on the role of real estate in helping to tackle the productivity gap, please do visit our website and read our Shoesmith's Perspective report, Can Real Estate Help Solve the Productivity Puzzle? And do also watch out for further conversations in the coming days with more of the authors from that report. For now, thanks again to Liam, and goodbye.